Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a fantastic, phenomenal day. Happy Monday to you. Quick look here at Ethereum, see what's going on. We saw a pretty significant correction from altcoins pretty much over the weekend based on the simple fact that there was a lot of war talks and just bombings and all sorts of crazy stuff. So obviously, if you didn't know that already, that's just kind of the fundamental catalyst. But at this point, we have reached a tentative bottom. I think there's a decent probability we bounce from here. But once more, we want to double check everything and make sure we're not just taking, buying the dip to buy the dip, right? This is important to recognize that. So taking a look at the smaller time frames, just a quickly note here, we are in a descending trend. We are looking at a decent amount of liquidation above the price between 25 and 2,700, and of course locally here too between 2,000 and 2,100. So if we continue lower, 2,000 may be a solid place to consider adding to your position. That's pretty much where I got my target set. However, excluding spot back perspectives, we want to understand too that the continuation lower is getting, the likelihood of going lower is getting lower, if that makes sense. Bitcoin, if we can continue to stabilize and maintain above 100,000 and things start to calm down and relax, we're probably going to be in pretty good shape to see some pretty swift recoveries. Ethereum is also performing better than Bitcoin in the general sense too here locally, and I'll show you that on the charts as well. But either way, 2,000, 2,100 is a big deal there. I just kind of recognize that that's still present and definitely there. All that said, liquidation short delta is still high, but also overextended. We've been maintaining too many shorts for too long. They either need to close their positions or get squeezed out soon, okay? Because you can only, there's only so much selling pressure that can occur before people must buy. Now, you could argue that we've already seen that little buy, that buy spree, if you will, buying spree. But the simple way to understand it is that there's open interest below the price that's starting to accumulate, increasing the odds of support and or just further upside. All right, so once more, getting some good volume there. What we want to take a look at here to start, I think is important, is the CME gap here. That basically has fully, well, not fully formed, but there's still a gap remaining. So the simple way to understand it, roughly, what is it, 2430, that's the area in which we saw CME futures close on Friday. Reopened, of course, at about 2200 on Sunday. We still have a gap left remaining between 23 and 2,400. Just some easy round numbers for you. So that's kind of where we're at there. So I'll put that, I'll make sure that's reflected on the charts when I post our playout chart here. But for the most part, that is a CME gap that should get filled in the short term. Now, the overall sentiment here is that we're in a descending trend, okay? So we don't want to get too crazy with longs, but if you do end up taking a long, keep it tight and make sure you secure profits within reason. I'm currently in a long position for Bitcoin in the 101K range with take profit at right around 104K. And the main reason why is because there's a heavy confluence at 105,000 with resistance, and there's a solid chance that once that CME gap gets filled from Bitcoin, that we do see potential correction at that level. Okay, so there's just some things to kind of be mindful of and aware of. But if you do look at the recent price action and you kind of zoom into smaller time frames, Ethereum is looking stronger than Bitcoin as far as its recovery. So there is that too. All right, so really quickly to note on the 4-hour time frame, there's not a whole heck of a lot here minus the MACD convergence, which is never truly a great barometer of when, what to take a trade on. But majority of things are, we've hit our tentative bottom. We hit RSI at 20, that's super low, 15 for money flow index, and both those are increasing and back up above the moving average. So that is a good shift in momentum, kind of an early sign that we're mostly back on track. A lot of this is contingent on Bitcoin not dumping and obviously the war not escalating. But if things can kind of calm down for a little while, right back up to retest, or at the very least, I foresee us fulfilling or satisfying that local CME gap. So once more, I'll post that on our playout chart here so you can kind of see it a little more clear. But overall here, this is not a perfect situation by any stretch. We're not breaking bullish. It's still very early. But the CME gap, I feel, plus high volume, and Bitcoin kind of looking stronger today based on the fact that the price was pretty much baked in over the weekend. I think there's a solid chance that we're going to see some coins, specifically Ethereum and some blue chip coins, start to kind of recover swiftly. I think that's a solid chance. However, you got to recognize we're not in a perfect situation. So if you do take a trade, it's always considered high risk and you want to watch it closely. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at there. I hope that makes sense and I described it correctly. Thanks again for being an awesome part of my life. Make sure you join us over at Bitunix too, folks. We have a new campaign starting here soon. They always provide great benefits for our members. And then furthermore too, of course, jump on over to Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. where I do have some awesome content there. I've been getting some good feedback, and community's growing there too. So don't be a stranger. Reach out. Feel free. I look forward to work with you either way. Thanks again for your time. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.